Why should people care? Why should people care about our borders? Why should they care about the drug crisis? Every state is a border state.
Yep.
Fentanyl isn't just a drug, it is poison.
It's an epidemic, it needs to be handled.
All this is just coming in and we have no clue how much, where, when.
It's like the nation's immune system is being attacked right now.
We had migrants die trying to cross into the United States last year. That is horrible.
Let's find out what the experts are saying on the front line and why it's so important for us to understand the crisis.
A secure border saves lives.
And what's killing me is that this administration is enhancing the ability for the cartels to kill our kids. So shame on the American government for not connecting the dots.
I know y'all been waiting on some fire from me for a while. So without further ado, I give you fervent heat. Yeah, I'm running up the pressure, man. You thought I was playing, what you thinking now? I'm getting loud with it, tell me how you like the sound. I'm coming all the way, I ain't bringing nothing lesser. You aggravated, cause you see me running up the pressure. I'm running up the pressure, running up the pressure. I'm running up the pressure, running up the pressure.
We get some shocking development as the Texas National Guard is blocking access to Shelby Park in Eagle Pass, Texas, preventing Border Patrol from accessing that section of the border. This also comes as Governor Sarah Huckabee of Arkansas is deploying Arkansas National Guard troops to the southern border to reinforce the Texas National Guard under command of Governor Greg Abbott.
And today we're going to be having a snippet from Tom Homan and Derek Maltz, two men that have an incredible background. Tom Homan is the CEO of Border 911, and fantastic interview. He was at America Fest with you all, and it was
great to meet Tom, for sure.
It was really awesome for me to even just listen into some of that. He was I believe the former director of ICE underneath Trump, and he has served under six administrations.
Yeah.
So he has a very powerful voice in the area of border crisis and all of that. And then also we have Derek Maltz, who was a former director of special operations at the DEA. And he has a powerful story about fentanyl, the overdoses in America and everything like that that's happening right now.
It really is a crisis.
It is a crisis as well. And it's tied right in with the border as well. We'll also be showing that snippet of their interview that we shot a few weeks ago, but now we have this Texas development. So they were already saying this is something that could be happening, and now it's happening. So one of the other things that we just want to talk about today is the fentanyl crisis that is gripping our nation, and I think Derek will also be touching on that. But my heart really for today is to show people that the border crisis is, once it gets to your doorstep, it's no longer a crisis, but now it is an absolute disaster. And so don't let it get to that point and actually do something. Today is going to be a very engaging conversation, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And this episode is brought to you by cultureof1776.com. Culture of 1776 was founded by our friend Hannah Faulkner, who we got to meet earlier this year at America Fest. Hannah is a young entrepreneur from Tennessee, and we just love her products. She is focused on making a clothing line that supports feminine and masculine values. If you enjoy having clothes that allows you to share and broadcast your values, you can go to culture1776.com and use the code word IGNITE, that's IGNITE all capitals, for a 15% discount at checkout. Thank you so much, Hannah, for sponsoring this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to be having this interview here, and we're going to play it in just a few seconds, but I want to talk to you three real quick first, because you guys got to have this interview at the last moment with Tom. Just tell me a little bit about just your meeting with them and who they are.
So first of all, they are two guys. I said I could hang out with these guys all day because they have such passion. They have everything about them is real. They're gritty, but what I love is that they're always about protecting. And at the helm of everything I do, protection, as you guys know, as my children, is that protection and protecting kids, protecting families, protecting our nation it should be at the epitome of every single citizen's awareness, but the desire to just even understand what's going on. And a lot of people have their head in the sand. And
Definitely.
So I really respect what they're doing with Border 911 because they've done so much work already with administrations, but now they have, taken on a life of its own, really. And I love that they're still continuing on with the message and the mission to protect our borders.
Absolutely. And right now with the temperature of what's going on with the border crisis and everything, and why should people care? Let's talk about that a little bit before we get into this interview. Why should people care about our borders? Why should they care about the drug crisis?
Yeah.
Maybe they're living in a northern state. Maybe they're living in, I don't know, maybe South Dakota or something like that.
I think a recent development, and maybe one of the reasons that you're watching this right now, is that I feel like the border crisis has really been distributed across the nation, with states like Arizona and Texas actually shipping migrants across the country to sanctuary cities, to New York, to Chicago, to Seattle. And it's really bringing this to literally dropping this off on people's front desk. There's, a term that a lot of people like to use. It's the NIMBYism, or not in my backyard, right? And it's like, oh, I want to support human rights and I want to support immigration and stuff like that, but not in my backyard. And I feel like this has really been dumped in a lot of people's laps right now, and a lot of people are suddenly starting to care.
And rightfully so, they should care. And we think about border states, but really when you're dealing with the drug problem and the drugs that are coming over the border and then they're going in and seeping into all the states, then it becomes a border situation in every state.
One of the things that I love from watching the interview with Tom is he said that every state is a border state.
Yep.
And if we have that kind of mindset of realizing that we have to defend the border, not just for the sake of that one border, but because each state itself now is
responsible.
It's responsible and it's affected directly by it too. So.
Even when we were on our way back from America Fest, we were when we were about to hop on our flight, we seen migrants boarding buses to go to New York and Chicago or whatever. We didn't get exactly where they're going, but there was I think it was 4 or 5 busloads that we seen.
Yeah. And and just so people also understand our heart too is, we are a Hispanic family.
My dad was actually born in Mexico.
Yeah.
So.
And, we have a heart for all that. So, it
really is a humanitarian crisis right now.
Yeah.
What we are seeing is we had migrants die trying to cross into the United States last year, which is that is horrible.
Okay, so before we get into all of that real quick, we're gonna go into the episode, but I just wanted you all to understand is yes, we have a Hispanic background. My grandfather, like she mentioned, is Hispanic from Mexico. So
this is important. And my dad, who's even born in Mexico, he was born there and he didn't come over. Well, he came over around when he was 10 years old. So I'm first generation on his family, born here in the United States. But let's find out what the experts are saying on the front line and why it's so important for us to understand the crisis.
Now listen, man, my faith talk is the word of God. The just shall live by faith.
We have some guests here today that I am so excited. We're at America Fest today. We're here to make a change. We're here to ignite some fire within our community, within our nation, within our globe. And we have some heavy hitters here. We have Derek Maltz, former director, DA, Special Ops Division. And then we also have Tom Homan, former ICE director for President Trump. This is what I love about him, is that he's got a lot of gusto, he's got a lot of punch, but he also is a funny guy. So I said, please, you guys, I want both of you guys on our show. And here they are. So God is good, I will say that right now. They are from Border 911, so we have to say where they're representing right now. Now we're gonna talk about some serious topics right now. We're gonna talk about border and we're gonna talk about the drug crisis. And what is your goal? We're here at America Fest today, and as we're changing the culture, as we're shifting the culture, we'll start with Derek. Derek, let's talk about your specialty, drugs in our nation, about where we're going as a nation if we don't put or make a stop with what's going on currently.
So thank you for having us. Right now we have the worst crisis that's ever been in the history of America on kids dying at record levels. We're losing about 9,000, and the Mexican cartels are dominating the drug business in America. But unfortunately now it's poisoning. It's fentanyl poisoning that's coming in from these filthy, dirty labs in Mexico. And the cartels are taking total advantage of the weak, porous border. They are flooding American communities with these poisonous substances like we've never seen before. And families all over the country are waking up, finding their kids dead in the bedrooms. We've never seen this before. This is not grandpa's opioid crisis. Yeah, we have an opioid addiction issue in America, but right now we have a poisoning against our citizens. And the Chinese Communist Party with the Chinese criminals are behind it. And it's very scary. And what's killing me is that this administration is enhancing the ability for the cartels to kill our kids.
You know, this is so important because I think maybe you can explain to the audience, because there's a lot of parents that are just, they hear it on the news, they hear the term, they hear the name of the drug, but can you explain to them why this is different from the other garden variety of drugs out there?
Well, for one, fentanyl that's being dumped in our country today is illicitly made in clandestine labs in Mexico, okay? The Chinese criminals are providing all the chemicals, and the cartels are taking total advantage of the kids. They're using social media, they're using all the Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok to deliver the drugs or the poison to these kids in the house. So it's like ordering a pizza. The kids are sitting in their bedroom, they get on Snapchat, they get on Instagram, they order up a pill, they think it's Adderall, they think it's Percocet, they think it's Oxy, but in fact it's poisonous fentanyl. Fentanyl only requires 2 milligrams to kill. The DEA this year alone sees 74 million fake pills. And the DEA administrator has said that 7 out of 10 pills have a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. So do the math. 70% of 74 million pills. So law enforcement is saving lives every day. But it's something we've never seen. This is not drugs, it's just poison. And that's what parents need to know.
And one thing I want to make clear here is that it's one thing to have a drug addiction and there's one thing to be pushing a pleasure experience, but I really feel like there's a murderous spirit behind this drug, a murderous spirit.
Yeah, because the Chinese Communist Party has unrestricted warfare. They want to destroy America. And this is a strategic plan to take out the future generation of America. So shame on the American government for not connecting the dots. And now we have the Chinese coming in on a wide open border. Tom can explain that a lot better than me. But they're coming in at record levels. The Chinese nationals, the military-aged men, they're coming in, they're setting up marijuana grow operations. They're doing the money laundering for the cartels. And they're also now selling this very, very high pure THC marijuana, which is distorting our kids' brains. So it's a gateway drug into, this perfect storm of death and destruction.
I love, I really want to hear from Tom too really quick, but this is such an important topic. So you said the THC is a gateway drug. And what we have to understand is that there are levels. And this is what really jumped off to me is that with the fentanyl is that it's not like any other drug where it takes time to get addicted to it, or people have to be in drugs for a long time and they have overdose. People are just one hit and they're dead without any addiction.
Right. And so America has a very soft, outlook about marijuana. They think it's safe. But this is not the marijuana from the 70s and the 80s and 90s. This is marijuana being produced by Chinese nationals that want to destroy this country. So these kids, they don't even know what they're smoking. And our Congress and our leaders in government are actually encouraging marijuana use. So now, when these kids then order up a pill and they're in their bedroom, they're dying. And the sad part is they don't know what they're getting. They're being deceived to death. And that's the biggest thing that's changed. They don't know what they're getting.
Okay, so we're gonna pause it right there and we're gonna stop and talk about that. Man, that was a lot in just a couple of minutes right there.
And he went right down to the heart of the issue right away. He's like, fentanyl isn't just a drug, it is poison. It is a level of poison because it's, I heard somebody talk about it. They're like, if you have a heroin addiction, you can check yourself into rehab, but if you have a fentanyl addiction, you're pretty much checking yourself into a funeral home. It's not.
Derek,
fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin?
Absolutely, yeah, it's 50 times, yeah. And it's 100 times more than morphine. So
50
it's
to 100 times stronger than morphine, yep.
And go ahead.
I was going to just say, Derek actually said, kids are supposed to learn from their mistakes, not die from their mistakes. And as a mother with kids, and as somebody who was younger and sowed my wild oats and made my mistakes and learned from them and was able to grow and become better through the lessons that I lived through. It's absolutely horrifying, shocking, and sad when you look at, I just went through story after story of the kids who lost their life, and they don't look strung out. A lot of these kids don't look strung out. They don't look addicted. They look like honor students, beautiful cheerleader.
It could be their first time. It could be their first time, hey, try this drug out. And it's just the first time and they can overdose,
Absolutely. And the problem with this too is that, like you mentioned, these drugs are being laced inside of things that they don't know. So they were thinking, oh, I'm getting this Adderall, but it's really just a piece of chalk with fentanyl inside of it. So it's a problem. I told Mama this story, just like I told you this story last night. It was really heartbreaking, but these two teenager girls, they had went to a party, and young, I think 17 and 19 years old, and they had a pill, but they were like, let's be whatever, let's split it in half. Okay, so they each took half a pill, and because these are mixed not by professionals, they're just by whatever, one half of that pill had the full dose of the fentanyl and the other half didn't. And one sister died almost instantly and the other lived. And just like that, from one pill. And that's how dangerous this stuff is. 2 milligrams of fentanyl is all that it takes.
2 milligrams is just such a tiny amount.
You can literally breathe it in. Like, there's an officer that was doing a drug stop, and he opened the trunk and he immediately started overdosing just from breathing in the scent. And luckily his fellow cop saved him, but just opening the trunk and smelling it was enough to almost kill him.
Yeah.
The main thing is that even if you think about 2 milligrams, that's the tip of a pencil. That is, it's I think it's what, same as 10 grains of salt. It's just a ridiculously small amount. And we're having this fentanyl being, brought into the United States over the border at all these different locations because there wasn't any until Texas is now making a habit right now of saying, hey, we need checkpoints and we need it now.
Right.
It was just being unregulated. Just all this is just coming in and we have no clue how much, where, when. And
I think, as we're even talking about this, I love that we got to do Tom together with Derek because together their mission is so dynamic because they're crossing, they're making a web, they're making a wall. They're crossing over this information. In October 28th, 2021, the Mexican army, the other side of the border, which is crossing the border, Mexican army seized a lab producing 70 million fake pills a month. Okay, and so you do that kind of math, and that's a month. And now where do they want those drugs to come? They want to go where the money is, and so they're coming over here and they're crossing the borders because hey, it's easy. And people are crying about, oh, we need to be nice to the people next door, and the people next door, are not all nice. And many in the majority of these people, are coming over with, they want money, but they're coming over as murderers. When they give our kids and people, it's not all just kids, obviously, but adults and children who are getting into the babies. I was reading, it was awful. A baby was crawling on the floor and her mom had done it that day apparently and just got some on her hand and probably put her hand in her mouth and died. She had a drug overdose from crawling on the floor where it was. So it's an epidemic. It needs to be handled. We need to safe borders so that we can close off this spigot of ridiculousness. It's killing our people and our nation.
Absolutely. And I was working on a documentary, and we'll get back to this in a quick second, but I was working on gathering some information for a fentanyl documentary with a friend of mine, and it was just so heartbreaking to read all these different stories. But the more important thing, I think, even when we were working on it, I felt like it wasn't enough in the eye of the public to get support. And that was the more discouraging thing. Not in a discouraging kind of way of saying oh, well, we can't do it. It was more discouraging, people don't get it. They're not getting it. They're not getting that fentanyl isn't just another drug. It's not just another opioid.
Literally poison.
It is literally poison, and this is something that is detrimental.
And truly all drugs are poisonous, but the thing is,
it's a whole other level.
Yeah.
If you're taking it for the first time ever, this is what I was talking about with my friend Michael Carnes. We were just talking about it, and he's like, people don't get it. Even people that I was working with on the production, they're like, my Hollywood friends, okay, I'm from the film community, they're like, they go to parties, regular people, and then, every once in a while, they're like, well, let's do something recreational, okay, whatever, you're celebrating. I'm not that kind of person, but the point is they're doing it. And then I think she said she had 5 or 6 of her friends die, and she's only in her 30s. I'm just thinking, it's just crazy to me. I was looking at the numbers for Kings County in Washington, okay? This isn't directly by the border, but in Kings County, in 2015, there was only 3 deaths related to fentanyl. 5 years later, it was 100, And now, what is it? It's over 1,000. The increase of the deaths and the overdoses in fentanyl is just astronomical, and it's happening fast because why? The borders have been purposely let down. And I think that's a good segue right into what Tom is going to say right here. So let's go ahead and watch what he says.
When President Biden, who's the first president in the history of this nation to come into office an unsecured border. Under President Trump, we had the most secure border in my lifetime. I did this job for 35 years. I started in Border Patrol in 1984. I know the border. I worked for 6 presidents. Every president I worked for took steps to secure the border because they understood you can't have national security without border security. You gotta know who's coming and what's coming. President Biden's the first president in history of this nation who came into office and unsecured the border. And why did he do that? People ask me that all the time. I think for a couple reasons. I think the Democratic Party sees millions of people as future Democratic voters. But we don't even have to get there, because when Biden wrote 90 executive orders destroying everything we created, he also overturned the Trump census rule. Now, what does that mean? That means millions of people are releasing into the United States that had no rule in sanctuary cities. When we do the next census, what's the census do? That's what informs the seats in the House. So the millions of people in sanctuary cities is going to result in more seats in the House for the Democrats. They sold the security of this country out, the sovereignty of this country out for future political power. And I tell people all the time, under President Trump, we had illegal immigration down 83, 90% at 45-year low. A secure border saves lives. And I'll tell you why, because when 90% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many pounds of fentanyl don't get through the border because 100% of the Border Patrol is on the line doing the national security, seizing more fentanyl? How many billions of dollars are the cartel not making the border secure? How many known suspected terrorists will come to the country with the border secure? So I don't care what, a lot of people disagree on immigration. I don't care what their opinion is on immigration enforcement, but when you cause a crisis this big, that overwhelms the Border Patrol where 70 to 90% of agents have been taken off the line, that creates a vulnerability for terrorism, especially for narcotics, for sex trafficking on women and children, and for alien smuggling. I did a show this morning. I explained the reason there's so much violence in Mexico right now because the cartels are making a record amount of money smuggling aliens, trafficking women and children, and drugs, specifically fentanyl, being run by the Sinaloa cartel. That's what's happening in this country. It all goes back to an unsecured border that this administration purposely unsecured. This isn't mismanagement. This isn't incompetence. This is by design.
And this is what I want everybody to hear today, okay? One word that I love that
A secure border saves lives. A secure border protects this country. I started Border 911. It's a nonprofit, 501c3c4. I started a nonprofit for one reason. I brought the most talented border security experts, national security experts into this team. I got Mark Morgan, who's the CBP commissioner of Trump. I got Derek Maltz, who knows the fentanyl and the cartels, how they operate and how they're destroying this nation. I got Jason Jones, who retired from Texas DPS intelligence unit, that knows the cartels probably better than anybody. I got, who else? I got Rodney Scott, who spent his entire career in the Border Patrol. He started as a Border Patrol agent, worked himself all the way up to be the chief of the National Border Patrol. I got Victor Avila, who he worked for me in ICE, and he spent many years down in Mexico working at our attaché case. They're directly investigating cartels. I got Sarah Carter, who spent 20 years as investigative journalist. I brought the best border people in the world as part of this team. And why? Because we want to spend the next year explaining to me why border security is important. So when you get to the voting booth next year, you're going to vote for the man or woman, and I personally think it's President Trump, but you're going to vote for the person who's going to secure the border. President Trump did it once, he can do it again. That's what it's about. And I don't, again, I don't care what their opinion is on illegal immigration, but they need to understand, if we don't control the border, the illegal immigration overwhelms the Border Patrol so much. That's when the fentanyl comes in. That's when sex trafficking of women happen. That's when known suspected terrorists going across. So we're educating American people. Get to the voting booth, educate yourself why border security matters, and vote for the person who's going to secure the borders. It's going to help reduce all this other stuff. This country is being destroyed from the inside out, and we can't tolerate. Unfortunately, we can't be the welfare nation for the entire world, but this country's in bad shape, and I want the America that I grew up in, a patriotic America, one that respects police, one that respects our military, and one that respects our sovereignty as a nation. You're not a country without borders. So I hope the people get to the voting booth, please. Regardless of who you vote for, use that privilege and go vote. And please go to border911.com. Thank you.
Now listen, man, my faith talk is the word of God. The just shall live by faith.
Is there anything else that people should know, especially like let's even say about fentanyl crisis and all that? What do people need to know about that?
I'd say to educate your kids, you know, because the ones that are affected by it are the kids of this world. You know, it's our generation that's really affected by it because they're the ones that don't have the fully developed head on their shoulders to, you know, realize what's going on. And the older generation aren't, they never were exposed to this kind of, you know, drug abuse. And so if we need to teach the older generation to teach the younger generation, so everybody is basically educated on the consequences of, you know, this open border and, you know, drugs coming and all that.
Well, I would say on that note then is, yes, it's about education. I would say that all of the people need to understand that this isn't just for the druggies. This isn't just for the people that are already, you know, all that. And, you know, it's unfortunate and they should get help. But I'm just saying for the regular person, understand the risks because out of 10 pills, 7 of those could be have lethal dose, of fentanyl inside of them. And that's how pervasive it is right now.
And also even just on because some people are they're experimenting, you know, kids are and they're fed so many opportunities.
You know how many 14 and 15-year-olds are dead right now because of fentanyl? It's because it's their first time ever. They want to just, you know, have a little fun. They do whatever and they're with their friends.
They're
but this is a conversation for parents to have.
Right.
Yeah. And I think schools, personally, I think like, you know, Moms Against Drunk Driving, they did a great job of having this course that you have to take every time before you get your driver's license. I think there should be something like that for the fentanyl. I personally, that's what I
And I would definitely go to Border 911 because they have different areas that you can look at specifically. I know that Derek has different promotions that Derek has different programs that he offers. And I just saw something he posted on his wall today. I highly suggest following them and seeing what they're doing because whatever they're connected to, it's with the heart of protection. So, you know, I always go and follow the people who actually have a heart for what they're doing. And so that's so important. And, you know, the one pill kills, there's that hashtag out there and there's a lot of families that have been impacted. And so for me, even you know, because this is a TikTok generation, even letting your kids see this one pill kill on social media and seeing all the stories. I watched a social media reel from a mom, and it was a kid who actually started a business, and his mom found a video of before he tried the fentanyl. Obviously, he tried it, and now he's not here any longer. So before it, he had just launched his business.
Like a teenager kid?
He's about probably 17, but he launched a business, he's actually chronicling it. Like, it's my first launch. And so he had so much hope. He had entrepreneurship in him. He had, you know, a great smile. He had a lot of life in him, but he took fentanyl. And I don't know how many times he took it, but he's dead now. And he was a teenager with so much promise.
And you don't know. A lot of the times they do not know. You will not know. There's not an ingredient list on these stuff.
So this topic was important. I just want to thank everybody for watching. And remember, y'all, go out and blaze change. Thanks for watching. We're Ignite Voices TV. Before you know it, it is that little ember that starts a whole fire across our nation of voices that will not remain silent because our nation is in crisis.
Yeah, a fire does need to be started in the voice of the citizens.
It's heartbreaking that our country is getting destroyed.
People don't realize how bad it is.
It is
speaking the truth and bringing light into darkness.
Ignite Voices is bringing different voices in who are saying enough is enough.
How can we sit back and complain when we see our country collapsing, one community after other?
Not even a red or blue issue, it's a red, white, and blue issue.
And we believe in freedom.
We are diverting the lie that we should hate our nation, that we should not understand who we are as a people. It is causing confusion in the heart of humanity.
I saw this terrifying agenda take over our public schools.
That all sounds very negative, but here's the good news. You are set free.
That's exactly it. You do have power in the society. It's not too late. We are here to shift the culture's narrative. We're here to blaze change. I'm Vaughn Kensington.
I'm EmmaSara,
host of the Ignite Voices TV show. Remember, keep that torch lit. Go to ignitevoices.com. Go out and blaze change.